the 3 common mistakes on the process of Italian citizenship by descent. So today we want to clarify what are the 3 common mistakes, because it's really important if you want to file an application that may be successful. Well, you need to pay a really huge attention about 3 key points of the application process. This is Marco Bersani as always from the Bersani Law Office from Italy, and do not losing more time. Let's start. The mistake number 1. Mistake number 1 is related to the eligibility check. A lot of time we have some clients that contact us and they write to us the situation, so the Italian heritage, they share some information. Let's make an example. There's a common case where we have an Italian grandfather, so the line is grandfather, father, applicant. They send an email and say, well, my father was born in the United States, for example, but my father was born after the naturalization of my grandfather. So my grandfather, the Italian citizen, naturalized as American citizen before the birth of my father. I cannot use my father because my father was born after the naturalization of my father, but can I just use my grandfather? So I just jump to my grandfather so I can say my grandfather was Italian. Of course, the answer is no. There is a common misconception about this type of question, because it's important that you understand how it works. So when you want to file an application for citizenship by descent, and when we check the eligibility, what is important for being eligible? For being eligible, you need to have an Italian ancestor, grandfather for example. The Italian ancestor, so was Italian citizen by birth, must have your father, for example, so the child, before the naturalization. So the child, the father, in example, must be born from an Italian father. Of course, if your father was born from an American father, you cannot claim your Italian citizenship by descent because the line is broken. So if you want to be potentially eligible for citizenship by descent, your Italian bloodline must not be broken by naturalization before the birth of the next in line. Let's see the mistake number 2. Mistake number 2 is related to the documentation, in particular related to the documentation for proving the fact that you're Italian ancestor or never naturalized in another country. So it's really important to have all the complete documentation. If you have some random information, especially from documents like the census record, you cannot be 100% sure about what happened to your Italian grandfather. Especially for the census record was, filled up by the same applicant, by the same person. So, and it's pretty common actually in the past, where the immigrants were lied in what they wrote on the census records because, the discrimination, because they want to join Social Security benefits. Situation at that time, more than 100 years ago, there was no internet, there was no the actual bureaucracy, there was nothing, not so big control. And so, you have to understand they can lie into the documents. If you are checking about the naturalization information, which is the most important information because you need to be sure if and when your Italian ancestor naturalized abroad, you need to use official documentation. You cannot provide an evidence of that with non-official documentation like the census record. You need official documentation from the foreign government. Only the government can confirm you if they have or they don't have naturalization records from that person, from your Italian ancestor. Mistake number 3 is related to your genealogical researches. When you research the information about your Italian ancestor, a lot of time we have clients that they share a lot of documentation about an Italian ancestor, like newspaper, random documents, a sheet manifest, other documents. And sometimes they are also able to provide like the Italian birth certificate, Italian baptismal certificate. Well, when you have your documentation about your Italian ancestor, you should be sure 100% that we are talking about your Italian ancestor, because it was pretty common, especially from small villages and small areas and certain areas in Italy, especially from the south of Italy, where a lot of people from the same area, they had the same last name, but also the same name. So it's really important and do not rush your research. You have to be sure. If you go online and search for information and you find a person which has the same name as your ancestor, maybe your ancestor, but maybe not. So our suggestion is always to hire, if you're not 100% sure, to hire genealogists in Italy so you can get all the information at your family tree. That can be helpful for also speeding up the process, because we can collect the documents, more quickly if we have the correct information. Of course, this doesn't mean that you have to do everything up front. Those all services are services that we can provide through our partners, so it's not absolutely a problem. But this is also important, and we wanted to do this video because it's very important. Since the beginning, you are very clean in mind how to proceed. You have not to rush the application. We understand the excitement you may have for the fact that you can claim your Italian citizenship, you can have an Italian passport, you can be reconnected with your Italian heritage, but we have not to rush the application. It's very important to do the homework in a good way since the beginning. Of course, as always, if you have questions, something you want to ask, if you want to also book a consultation call about your case, or if you want that we check your eligibility of your case, then you can contact us. As always, from to the website, there is a contact form that you can use, it's free of charge, so you can contact us. You can also leave comments. I always encourage you to leave comments here and interact with all the videos. It's very important also if you want to subscribe to the channel and to make a like to the video, because you can always be always updated with all the information, with the last updates, with everything related to Italian citizenship by descent and all the application for Italy. So it's very, very important. As soon as we have an update, something we want to share with you, we will post a video. So it's very, very important to subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for your time, and see you on the next videos.